Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news for the Florida State Seminole fans as five-star safety from the state of Georgia commits to Florida State in KJ Bolden. This is kind of what you're seeing in the 2024 class for Mike Norvell and the Florida State Seminoles. I think is a program-changing class in terms of how they've been able to go on the road, go toe-to-toe with top programs in the SEC, and win out for commitments like Charles Lester, like KJ Bolden. We were talking Florida State about a week ago when Charles Lester commits to Florida State, talking about how he is the crown jewel of this 2024 class. And Mike Norvell says, hold on, wait a minute. We're going to go out and land five-star KJ Bolden as well. And a little primer, we'll get into the film, talk a little bit about what this means for the program. But KJ Bolden, in terms of being an all-around safety, a defensive utility piece, there is a reason he's a five-star. There's a reason he's a top 10 national recruit in the country, a true difference maker on the defensive side of the ball. Now, before we get into KJ Bolden, talking a little bit about what this Florida State class is in 2024, I just want to say thank you to you guys. The support from the Florida State fans has been absolutely awesome. It's been a blast talking Florida State recruiting. They've been hot on the trail. You guys lighten it up in the comment section. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the boys. So if you do enjoy the content, you enjoy the updates, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I'm going to kick this one off to you. Florida State landing KJ Bolden, what's it mean for this program here?
I mean, it just feels like Mike Norvell may be taking a second to get his recruiting legs, if you will, at Florida State. I mean, he's recruited well for sure, but this year looks like a program-changing kind of class. In what you said, he's going on beating out Georgia, beating out Ohio State, beating out Alabama, like the big dogs of the recruiting world. In the play on the field's trending up, and now bringing in the real talent. I mean, I think a lot of people like to talk about they're not on the blue chip ratio right now. That's obviously changing. If they start recruiting these big classes each year, and you combine it with the way Mike Norvell and staff have been able to develop, I think you're looking at an ultra dangerous football program moving forward.
Yeah, that's kind of what I want to dig into is Mike Norvell. There were some growing pains when Mike Norvell took this job. I feel like Florida State fans remember that all too well, losing guys like Travis Hunter. What you're seeing is kind of the absolute blueprint on how to build a program back up. One, changing the culture. I think you can say, anyone with eyes can see that the culture at Florida State is changing. You even said Jeremiah Smith, five-star wide receiver, saying Mike Norvell's the best coach in the country, and he's committed to Ohio State. These guys love Mike Norvell, and you're seeing the high school talent not only notice that this program with play on the field is trending in the right direction, but Mike Norvell seems to have asserted himself as a coach at the Power 5 level that, hey, that's a guy that I want to go play for, and it is really hard to ignore the trajectory and the path that this Florida State program is on heading into the future under Mike Norvell.
I mean, that's what I think you're excited about because, again, you've seen the play on the field tick up meaningfully before the recruiting came up, and now it's like, man, if he's got the classes that are more on par in terms of talent with Georgia, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, all those teams, I'd be so excited if I'm a Seminole fan.
Like, and I will say one other thing. I think Florida State has arguably the best coordinators in the country. So from a player development standpoint as well, and from a recruiting standpoint, like you're feeling really good about not only adding talent to this program, but trusting that this talent is going to be used the right way. I mean, Adam Fuller, Alex Atkins, two of the best, not only on the recruiting trail, but how they can develop and how they can scheme up players to kind of reach their potential. Now, getting into KJ Bolden as a prospect, right? Wanted to add some sort of our thoughts on where this Florida State program is going. You are looking at like kind of a next level athlete, and it's hard at the highest level of Georgia football to look different. KJ Bolden on the film looks different, right? You're going to see him plays on both sides of the ball, really good track star as well, and you see that speed. Head over to the football field. But what I like the most is in a college football era, and we're going to see one more offensive highlight before we get to the defense, in a college football era where it's so important to get speed on the field to be able to cover like the spread offenses, but also having physicality in the box, that nickel defender being so important. KJ Bolden, I can't think of a better guy in this class to play that position that, again, is becoming so increasingly important. KJ Bolden,
how important that type of guy is to Derwin James, thinking back, obviously.
There we go.
Him, or a Jabril Peppers at Michigan, or some of these stars that have come out of Alabama, like a Malachi Moore. You see how important Brian Branch. You see how important that type of player is, who's versatile, athletic enough, can hit, can play in the box. I mean, that is what college football is trending to. You need to have those guys. They're such big difference makers. They're going high in the draft. And again, you kind of talk like he feels like he could be one of those prototypical guys like that.
Yeah, a true difference maker. And one other thing I want to know, and you kind of see this on the film a little bit, truly great, not only in the box tackling, being physical, which you see, but also a guy that's elite in man coverage. When you read the scouting reports, like he could play cornerback if he wanted to. You clearly see the athleticism, the movement skills to make that happen. Having a nickel that you can trust playing man coverage, because you see offenses, Tennessee kind of standing out as, we're going to try to isolate these nickels and safeties and try to get after them. KJ Bolden's a guy that you don't need to worry about him being a liability in coverage. He's going to be kind of a lockdown safety, a lockdown nickel, and man coverage and zone. He can do it all, and really just a chess piece for this class. Now, I do want to spend some time talking about what this Florida State class ranks and where it's going, because, again, if you're a Florida State fan, this 2024 class does really seem to be a program-changing class. So taking a look at what they have right now, as I'm getting an advertisement off the screen here, it is top 6 class in the country, and it's a class that you have kind of everything you really want, right? You have KJ Bolden, you have Landon Thomas, you have Charles Lester. Still, a guy that I want to talk about, Luke Croman, seemingly being like a massive guy. He was a big player in Charles Lester. When you have that quarterback that seems to be the leader of this class could really be special, and I don't even know if Florida State's done on the trail yet.
I mean, you got a guy now in KJ Bolden who's teammates with probably 5 Division I players, 5 Division I players next year, and not just one, but like Power 5 elite, big time Division I players. So again, if you start infiltrating, if you will, those Georgia schools, those obviously they're always going to probably be very competitive in Florida, but can they get outside of the state and start? Again, you look at their top 3, they're all Georgia players. Georgia has been obviously able to lock that state up for a long time, it feels like. But if they can go make some inroads and be able to pull guys out of those states along with their backyard, which they've done a fine job with, obviously, yeah, that feels like the recipe. It will come out. Can you get the guys out of LS or Louisiana, Georgia, Texas, etc.?
You take a look at the state of Georgia, the 3rd best player, the 5th best player, and the 7th best player in that state are in this Florida State class. And you mentioned it best. I mean, you're going head to head. You flip Landon Thomas from Georgia. You go out and beat the Georgia Bulldogs for a top prospect in their backyard in Buford. That just speaks to the pull that Mike Norvell has on the FBS level, at that Power 5 level in terms of talent, coming to Tallahassee. A phenomenal last couple weeks to be a Florida State Seminole fan. And again, it doesn't seem like Florida State stopping anytime soon. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys as usual. And if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate y'all, and we'll talk to you guys later.